Alaikum. Hello, Adabers. I'm Binish Ahmed. Welcome to Azadi Now. Azadi in Kashmiri means liberation and freedom. This is a show where we talk about current affairs in Kashmir and decolonial Indigenous resurgence globally. Today, we're at the Six Nations 1492 land back lane with Hodeshone land defenders Myka and Dex Whitlow. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Can you both introduce yourself to the viewers?
My name is Myka. I'm a Six Nations community member. I'm an Onondaga deer.
My name is Dex. I am also from Six Nations and I'm a Mohawk bear.
How did you and some of the land defenders here find out about the housing development that was happening on your territory, and what was your reaction?
So they've been hosting community meetings and been in negotiations for quite a number of years now. So for us, it was just a matter of keeping an eye on the site and watching the progress of the development.
Tell us why this land is important for you to protect.
For me, I feel it's important because when you look at Indigenous communities all across Canada, we have a very static amount of room that we have, and as much as our population grows, our land base doesn't grow. So I think it's very important for us to be able to secure more of our homelands to be able to grow.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about the way the Indian Act designates only certain lands for use of the Indigenous people, even though all of Canada is actually Indigenous territory?
I think it's very inequitable because settlers are allowed to obtain more land and keep growing and making their land base bigger. So when, again, just to reiterate, when Indigenous reserves are stuck with no room to grow, it's just inequitable.
What has your response been to those who say the housing developers purchased the land legally, quote unquote, from the Band Council?
I feel like if you're not doing your due diligence to understand the treaties and how the elected system versus the traditional council system works, then there's just fraudulent agreements. So.
Mm-hmm. What's the relationship of the Six Nations community with the Band Council, the elected council?
So the Band Council system is an imposed system by the colonial government that's been in effect since 1924. As it currently stands, they only have about a 4% voter turnout that even participates in that system. So realistically, they are nowhere near representational of the collective voice of Six Nations people.
You have been here since July 19th. You've had tremendous support from the Six Nations community and from allies. You've also faced aggression from racist passerbyers, some of whom I've seen myself. On August 5th, the OPP, the Ontario Provincial Police, invaded, violently removed, and arrested 9 land defenders. They also shot rubber bullets at you. What does that tell you about Canada's stated intention of quote-unquote reconciliation with Indigenous nations of Turtle Island?
I think it just shows that they are not interested in reconciliation whatsoever. Because when you come in with such violence and aggression on people that are being peaceful, I don't see how reconciliation falls into that whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think to further that, from what I understand, the police have the ability to choose how they're going to enforce an injunction if they so be, mediation also being an alternative to just coming in and arresting, and it's clear that they chose to take the more aggressive route instead of the more peaceable route.
Mm-hmm. Dex, do you want to add anything?
Well, as to my knowledge, Canada has apologized and recognized what they have done. At the same time, they have done no footwork to put in place any kind of system to where it treats us any differently than they have before. There has been no footwork, just an apology made national, as I think they were told to do, and not done on their own recognizance.
Mm-hmm.
So they've done the minimal as to announce to the public that basically they've been caught red-handed and been told to apologize, but to date have yet to do anything about the apology or about reconciliation.
Mm-hmm.
So
how does this remind you of what happened at Canistatu in 2006? Canistatu.
So to me, it's just indicative, like as Dex was saying, that they've actually made no steps forward because instead of taking the route and looking at their like racist policies and like all the colonial systems that are criminalizing us and keeping us oppressed, they're just looking to, like I said, criminalize us and throw us in jail, as opposed to looking at the root causes of the racist policies.
Mm-hmm. You've been presented injunctions here by the OPP on 2 occasions. Can you explain those 2 and their impact?
So the first injunction was just based on this area that we have now called 1492 land bag, Mackenzie Meadows as it's was supposed to be, and it was just to leave, and those who were opposed to leaving would be charged with mischief and removed. As the injunctions go for the rest of them, or the second round of injunctions, it went to 4 different places instead of just land bags. So it was about a lot more than just this area. It was about the roads, the highways, and the train tracks that also exist on our land that we currently occupy. The purpose of not developing these lands is that some of our people's food base and food sources are from the bush or the forest, as you may call it. It's animals that live there and grow, and they need room too as well. So in order for us to grow, we can't just take over our food sources place to live, or else we're just digging ourselves a deeper hole.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to add anything?
So just to give a little bit of context, when they came to read the first injunction, what the OPP told us was that they were just coming to read the injunction, but as we see, they proceeded to use violence against our peaceful camp here. So there was an instant and very large reaction from the Six Nations community, which ended up having Argyle Street blocked, the train tracks blocked, and the bypass blocked. And so for the community, it was a reaction to our our brothers and sisters being taken into jail. So it was sort of like a stance saying that they needed to be let out of jail. So at the time, and presently, those barricades or barriers, whatever you want to call them, are still up to this day. So the second injunction is specifically for the removal of the barricades from the road, the train tracks, and the bypass. And entailed in that injunction, however, though, it entails every single road that lies within Haudenosaunee County, even though it's currently only the 3 that are blocked, and so that one is like a permanent injunction as well.
There's no time cap on that, or
No,
it's like
so
indefinite.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So currently, at this time, the entirety of Haudenosaunee County essentially has an injunction on it.
Okay.
And so again, it's just a means of like criminalizing our people and trying to
Any peaceful protest and demonstration.
Yeah.
What has the land defenders and community's response been to those injunctions? For example, are they seen as valid? Do those issuing the injunction have the authority to do so on sovereign Hodeshone territories?
So for us as the Haudenosaunee, we know that ourselves in Canada are supposed to be on a nation-to-nation relationship. So for us, the court systems, the legal systems, all those things do not apply to us because we have our own laws that we follow, and in treaty agreements and even the Indian Act, the government has agreed to respect and recognize, our laws versus theirs. So realistically, they should be respecting those and not trying to force their system over our people.
And so then what does that say about the injunction being ordered by a system that's not yours?
I guess so to us, it's not valid. Like, we feel they don't have the authority to do such things. I mean, that's realistically at this time, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to stop the police from further coming in and bringing violence to our people and trying to, again, further force their system on us.
But it seems like you're still working in a peaceful way to negotiate in spite of these violent acts with the Canadian police and other officials. And in so doing, in having these channels of communication open, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy Council recently released a public statement in support of 1492 Land Back Lane. Tell us why this letter is significant and what it means to you.
So it means that the Confederacy has done their own research and have found that most of our community supports what we are doing, why we are doing it, and that it is an important part of what we need to do as a community to be able to expand, not only for our community, but for all the 500 other reserves that lie within Canada and the United States. It's a precedent to be set, and we hope others follow that precedent. But to have our Confederate chiefs show us that the community has our support as well as theirs means that we are on the right path or doing the correct amount of footwork to be liable and accountable for our actions that we take, and that we don't have to feel like there's only so many people here, that our entire community is willing to support us if need be.
What are some of the ways well-intentioned allies can support you here?
So they can come, show up to the camp, bring people, bodies on the ground is always helpful. We have our email where you can send funds, so that's our Gmail account. We do have PayPal, because I know like people from the States or other countries can't necessarily do the e-transfer. And then also we do have a GoFundMe page specifically for legal supports. Donations are always welcome. The staples, food, water, firewood are always really helpful here.
The influx of allies that happen and the supplies that are drop off, it is very overwhelming to do your land backing, so to speak, and organize everything that happens all at once. Space runs out of areas completely as more and more supplies drop off. So reorganization is always something we're trying to accomplish and need help with.
Okay, so always try to check in with folks on the site and recheck just to make sure.
Yeah, and so if you email us, we can, like, we do consistently try to update our supply list to the needs and what we currently have. So we're pretty astute on updating that on the Facebook page. And if you email us, we can just email back the most recent list.
Awesome. Now, despite best of intentions, allies can cause harm when trying to help. What should allies and friends of Six Nations not do when trying to support the reclamation efforts, even if they're well-intentioned?
I guess just being mindful, like if they do come here, just being mindful of not taking up too much space. Like there's a lot of work that we have to do on the ground and behind the scenes, which really monopolizes our time. So we do have like sort of an ally guide that they can look at when they get here. So it's beneficial if they can read that and sort of understand like what their role is in the parameters of the space, and sort of leave like the main organizers or whatever you want to call it, just let them have their space. And usually as well, we do have like designated sort of ally support, so those people would probably be best for them to go to and find out what needs to be done. But I mean, essentially, I feel like they should just look at it as if they were at home. Like, what would you do at home? You would be cleaning, you would be cooking, you would be doing like those sort of things.
Mm-hmm.
We also have, to add to what Myka says, a lot of women and children around, so we try to keep everyone who comes here maybe not in a good state of mind,
Mm-hmm.
to if they have animosity with anyone else who also chooses to participate in assisting us, to leave all bad feelings, bad intentions at the gate, and come in and be mindful that everyone's here to unify and to help. Nobody's looking to have an argument, or no one's looking to kick anybody out or be removed, and that's not the energy we try to create here or have here. So everybody love everybody has kind of been the saying that goes around.
Mm-hmm.
It's a friendly atmosphere, and we try to keep it at that as best as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also, it is like a drug-free and alcohol-free space here. So if anybody does show up intoxicated in any way, they will be asked to leave.
Mm-hmm. Myka, you mentioned not taking up too much space. Are there examples of kind of behaviors that you could describe that would help people understand what that means?
Yeah, so we do have like a main fire in the camp, which is usually, it's used in like the intent is for people to sit around and talk and, relax. But we also have designated specifically an ally camp, and they do have a fire over there. So just to leave that space available for, like members of the community, people that are doing the work here, just to have that space to be able to sit and relax, because like after doing work all day, like to not be to go to the fire and just have like all allies sitting around can be problematic. And just understanding, and like you said, like ill intention, like I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna help, and they might just like decide to do whatever, but just like consistently checking in to make sure that is something that the camp wants or that organizers are okay with.
Indigenous people globally face the ongoing genocidal dispossession and displacement by various colonizers from their territories. What is your message to those who are watching you defend and protect your land and perhaps doing the same thing on their own territories today?
Well, for most Indigenous people, there's the mindset to follow or be under colonizers' laws, rules, etc., and to follow their paper game and their way of sorting out things, whereas traditionally all Indigenous people have their own way of dealing with things, and there's not a time amount to put on somebody's thought process, and that is to do things as peacefully as possible, as well as communicating with whomever that is oppressing them or attacking them, and to keep a peaceful mind and do it in a good state to prevent themselves from having backlash or, as you would say, accountability held for their actions, so that they no longer take the steps that the colonizers take to take it a different role and to take it a different direction than it always has been, rather than just following suit as the ways that have not worked before, the decision-making processes that have been rushed in fear, is that there's too much social media to have that fear anymore. You can broadcast and get the global help that you need that wasn't always there, so you can take a more peaceful approach than we have been able to in the past, and to exploit that as well as you can.
Do you want to add anything, Myka?
Well, I feel like people just need to do it. I mean, I know it's scary, and I know it's hard, and in like systems of oppression, it's really hard to like think out of the box. And when you look at oppressive systems, usually they are very much structured to oppress and criminalize people who go against the grain. But I think we all know, as Indigenous people, like our battles are not going to be won in court systems. They're going to be won on the ground. They're going to be won practicing our own laws and like doing what we need to do for our own cultures. I think people just need to do it. I know it's scary. I know we're accustomed to just being locked into the system and following the rules, but I think we all know as Indigenous people that our battles are not going to be won in the courts or under colonial systems. We have to have faith in who we are as people, and we have to have faith in our Indigenous ways. And yeah, feet on the ground are the only way that these battles are going to be won.
Is there anything else you want to add to this conversation?
Yeah, so for me, I think people just sort of need to understand. So when we decided to come in here, like it's always been our purpose to be peaceful and to get land back, like, and that's sort of like our mantra. So even like when we came in, like we came in, we set up camp. There was no fighting or arguing. Like the site was empty when we came in, and like we've never blocked the roads. We've never blocked the driveway. Like the driveway's open. Like, so we sort of have people that are there by the laneway, as you see, just for security purposes and to monitor what's going on. But we've never blocked anything. We've just been very astute on that. We're committed to being peaceful and doing this in a good way. I think also we get a lot of questions about like, well, what about band council? What about Confederacy? Like, whose name is it going to be? Whose title? And like, so I think at this point that is not really what we're concerned about hashing out. We are solely at this time concerned about securing land back, making sure that the development stops and that it comes back to the table, and that we as Six Nations are the people that decide what happens on our land. So one of the things we've done is we've sent out letters to the ministers to ask them to come back to the table with elected council and Confederacy Council to be able to sort out the root causes and the root, like at the very base, where these lines of title or authority need to be straightened out. So again, what we've been asking the ministers of Canada to do is to come to a table with those parties to be able to decide those things, and we are also asking them to put a moratorium on any development. So that means no development whatsoever until the federal government, the Ontario government, and the current, I guess, governments of Six Nations can figure out how to move forward in a proper way and how to legitimately get land title and everything sorted out. So currently yesterday we did receive a response from Carolyn Bennett and Mark Miller saying that they are willing to come to the table with us and the two governing bodies, for lack of a better word, at this time, and let's get that ball rolling, which we're very excited about. It's a step forward. It's something we want to see. But again, we're just going to keep pushing the moratorium, because I think if you look at the 100 years of colonization and like the damage it's done to our community when it comes to like just not knowing our ways, like all the trauma, all of like the violence, all of those things. We as a community need to be able to take the time to fix all of those things and regroup and become healthy as a community to be able to make those informed choices on how our land should be used.
Dex, did you want to add anything at the end?
I'm okay with it.
Thank you so much for speaking with us today. You can support the 1492 Land Back Lane reclamation efforts by donating at the link below or through email money transfer at landback6nations@gmail.com. Links are provided below. Thank you for watching and listening. We would love to hear from you. Please share your thoughts in the comments, share the video, and subscribe to our channel. We also provide a link to our website and a donations page. Please help us keep the show going and growing through your financial contributions. And take care.